Square Enix has further reduced the "we won't be complete on launch" notion of the new Hitman game by making it entirely episodic. Let's chat about it in the comments below, but first, my opinion. I'm Tarmack, and this is Feature Creep. Hitman 2016, because we're unable to have proper sequel names now and have to refer to games like bloody sports titles, was originally supposed to be developed by the Montreal Square Enix studio, and they were pretty excited because the Hitman series is pretty great on the whole. The most recent game, Absolution, was a bit of a letdown for some, as the areas weren't as large as Blood Money with fewer options to complete each mission, but it still looked great and was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it was not meant to be, as Square Enix was in need of some belt-tightening due to financial difficulties. They gutted IO Interactive such that the studio couldn't do further Kane and Lynch titles, as well as a few others. Projects got scrapped, and Square Enix, in their infinite wisdom, took the new Hitman title back from their Montreal studio and placed it in the hands of the devs who had made the previous games in the series. Exclusively. That's all they were working on. It's unlikely that the studio was in very high spirits at this point, but hey, development had been going on for a year or more already, so you can't stop now. They only just recently had nearly half of their co-workers fired, and were now in fear of being under the knife as well. Meanwhile, Square Enix Montreal gets to make Hitman mobile titles. Yay! Amid all of these things, and a little bit relevant more later on, Telltale Games was, if not perfecting episodic video games, at least they were showing that it was financially viable. And back in July 2015, it was announced that we wouldn't be getting the full Hitman game on release. Rather, it was going to be a sizable chunk, with the rest being released for free over the course of the next year. I hesitate to allow them to say that it's free content, which is the spin that's being applied. No, it's paid content, you just paid in advance. And just a few days ago, after canceling pre-orders for Hitman, Square Enix announced that it was now going to be a fully episodic title, so you can pay the full retail price of $60 US to get the intro pack on the March 11th launch date, which will have a single location, as well as getting the rest of the content detailed over the course of 2016 for free. There's that free marketing spin again. Or you can pay $15 to get the intro pack, and then $10 for every pack afterwards of the episodic content. So in a relatively short span of a few years, the game has changed studio hands, gone to a studio that underwent massive layoffs, then admitted it couldn't be finished on time but would be a sizable chunk, and now to only a single location being available on release, but with the added benefit of being able to buy each individual section of the game a la carte. I've seen good arguments for splitting content in the past. The idea of having a game like Call of Duty split into single and multiplayer sections, allowing players to choose if they want either or both. The problem is that nobody really knows what the result would be. Would enough people that don't feel that they can justify the full $60 actually pay $30 for just the single player in order to offset the number of multiplayer-only people who will now only elect to buy half of the game? What I've never seen, though, is a good argument for episodic content like Hitman will be. This title represents one of the most interesting case studies in video games that I can think of lately. It's the first time a AAA release has been done this way. Generally speaking, there's a hype cycle of marketing surrounding video game releases that is very carefully managed. This is why Ubisoft is so upset at Kotaku for posting leaks of upcoming Assassin's Creed games and such. The human attention span for new things only lasts so long, and as a result, the message needs to be controlled, doled out at a very precise rate in order to maximize customer interest and sales. They don't pay for multi-million-dollar ad campaigns that just toss ads out willy-nilly. The Telltale model may seem similar at first glance, but there's a benefit that Hitman doesn't get to leverage. They are heavily story-driven and emotional in nature, at least they try to be, unlike the Game of Thrones titles. The intent is to get players invested in the games, and while precise numbers of the sales throughout the series is unknown, it's very clear that a game with a $10 introductory price point for the first chapter has excellent potential to sell far more copies than it otherwise would. This investment in the story is important because it keeps people talking about the game, forum discussions about what will happen next, arguments over which character you should have helped, and so on, from fans and even just people who aren't enthusiasts who just want to see what happens next. What I don't see happening long-term, however, is the overall player base staying interested in Hitman for longer than a few months. Do players really care what happens to Agent 47 in the next episode? Are they actually emotionally invested, or do they just like the game a little bit? This is my problem with a lot of titles, and it's shared by quite a few people. When a new game comes out, I want to go play it. I don't want another chapter in a game I've already played, especially when so many new titles are coming out. Maybe as a strategy 10 years ago when there were fewer releases, episodic content as a concept could have worked, notwithstanding digital distribution not being as good then. At the very least, it is an interesting development. What it also signifies to me, however, is a lack of satisfaction in the product. Though, if you keep an eye on Jim Sterling's videos, you'll see that Square Enix has a lack of satisfaction with video games as a single-release product in general. In this specific case, I suspect that pre-orders were very low. When you come right out and say that customers don't get the whole game on release, that doesn't bode well for people. Even if customers who aren't enthusiasts don't consider the possible issues of future delayed content, less incentive to create quality subsequent missions, and so on down the line, ultimately, they all just want it now. That's what people are after. And who can blame them? So, the announcement in July about the game release being a significant chunk wouldn't have inspired much pre-order confidence. And remember, Square Enix was the company that was disappointed in the 3.4 million copies of Tomb Raider that sold back in 2013. They're also the company who got crucified in the media over the choose your pre-order tier for Deus Ex. What haven't they tried yet? The Telltale model. And what better way to try it than by rebranding a game you already know is going to fail? To me, this is the logical conclusion of the Hitman situation, and there's a good possibility that not only finances came into play, but also that the game may have had further development problems like those that led up to the significant chunk announcement. Episodic game release has a much nicer marketing ring to it than significant chunk of the game you bought. What's your view on AAA episodic game development? Personally, while I'm not concerned from an ethics or consumer advocacy perspective on this one really, I certainly can't and won't support these types of piecemeal content. Separate and distinct game modes that I can choose from? Sure. Can't finish the game in time? Delay it until you can. Let's chat about it in the comments. Feature Creep is a regular show every week, now moved to Wednesdays because games release on Tuesday and embargoes usually lift on Monday, which basically caused me an endless scheduling headache. Thank you very much for watching, subscribing, liking, sharing, and hell, even disliking this video. That's all I have to say. Tarmack out.